The humid air clung to the Reyes family's skin like a second layer of regret as their battered jeepney rattled along the winding dirt road into Barrio San Isidro. The engine coughed and wheezed, mirroring the exhaustion etched into their faces after the long journey from Manila. It was late afternoon, the sun dipping low behind the jagged silhouette of the Sierra Madre Mountains, casting the landscape in bruised shades of purple and gold. Palm fronds rustled overhead, whispering secrets that the city-bred siblings pretended not to hear. Luz Reyes gripped the dashboard, her knuckles pale against the faded plastic. At 48, she looked a decade older, her once vibrant features hollowed by grief and the relentless pull of family duty. Beside her sat her husband, Thomas, his broad shoulders slumped as he stared out at the endless sea of rice paddies, where water buffaloes wallowed in the muck like forgotten relics. In the back, their children jostled for space amid the luggage. Elena, the eldest at 25, scrolling mindlessly on her phone despite the spotty signal. Marco, 22 and brooding, nursing a hangover from the night before. And Maria, the youngest at 18, pressed against the window with wide, curious eyes that betrayed her unease. "This place hasn't changed," Thomas muttered, breaking the heavy silence. "Same old road and same old ghosts." Luz shot him a warning glance. "Not now, Thomas. The kids are tired." Maria tuned them out, her gaze fixed on the passing scenery. The province of Nueva Ecija was a world away from the neon buzz of Manila's streets. Here the air smelled of wet earth and something sharper, decay perhaps from the overripe mangoes rotting in roadside stands. Billboards for election candidates had given way to weathered signs warning of landslides and stray dogs. As the jeepney crested a hill, the barrio came into view. A cluster of nipa huts on stilts, a whitewashed church with a sagging bell tower and the sprawling silhouette of their ancestral home at the edge of the forest. The house, Casa Reyes, loomed like a sentinel from another era. Built in the Spanish colonial style, its white walls were cracked and peeling, vines snaking up the capiz shell windows like veins. The roof of corrugated tin sagged in places, and the wide veranda wrapped around it like an embrace turned suffocating. Maria's stomach twisted as they pulled up the gravel drive. She hadn't been here since she was a child, visiting Lola Carmen during summer breaks, filled with ghost stories and sticky rice. Now Lola was gone, her body laid out in the parlor for the wake, and the homecoming felt more like a descent. The driver killed the engine, and the family spilled out into the oppressive heat. A gaggle of relatives waited on the veranda, cousins and aunts Maria barely recognized, their faces somber under black mourning bands. The air hummed with the low murmur of Tagalog prayers, punctuated by the distant crow of a rooster that sounded unnaturally shrill. "Salamat," Luz said to the driver, pressing a few crumpled pesos into his hand. He nodded curtly, his eyes darting toward the encroaching tree line as if eager to leave. Thomas clapped a hand on Marco's shoulder. "Help with the bags, hijo, and behave. No more of that city nonsense here." Marco rolled his eyes but complied, hauling a suitcase toward the steps. Elena lingered by the jeepney, typing furiously on her phone. "Signal's dead. Great. How am I supposed to tell work I'm delayed?" "Work can wait," Luz snapped, her voice fraying at the edges. "Your grandmother's dead. Show some respect." Maria trailed behind, her sneakers crunching on the gravel. The house smelled of jasmine incense and something metallic, like old blood. As they crossed the threshold, the wooden floorboards creaked underfoot, protesting the intrusion. The interior was dim, lit by flickering candles that cast long shadows across the woven Banig mats and faded family portraits. In the center of the parlor, Lola Carmen lay in an open casket, her face powdered white, rosary beads entwined in her gnarled fingers. Aunts knelt nearby, murmuring the rosary in rhythmic cadence. "Welcome home," Tita Rosa said, rising to embrace Luz. She was a stout woman in her 60s, her black dress straining at the seams. "The priest will come tomorrow for the burial, but tonight, we keep vigil." Maria hovered at the edge of the room, the weight of the stairs pressing in. The relatives eyed her siblings with subtle judgment. The city clothes too flashy, the postures too slouched. She slipped away toward the kitchen, seeking a moment's reprieve. The space was a relic. A clay stove blackened from years of use, shelves lined with jars of fermented fish and dried herbs. A window overlooked the backyard, where banana trees swayed in the breeze, their leaves like oversized hands clapping softly. As she poured herself a glass of water from a clay jar, a sound caught her ear, a faint scratching, like nails on wood, coming from above. The attic? She froze, glass halfway to her lips. It came again, rhythmic, insistent, as if something were testing the floorboards overhead. "Maria?" Elena appeared in the doorway, her makeup smudged from the heat. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Maria forced a smile. "Just the house settling, it's old." Elena snorted. "Yeah, well, it's creepy as hell. I swear I saw a rat the size of a cat scurrying under the stairs." The scratching paused, then resumed, fainter now. Maria set the glass down. "We should check the attic later. Make sure nothing's up there." "Later? After dark? No thanks." Elena shivered, though the air was stifling. Lola used to tell stories about this place. Aswangs in the woods, stealing children, remember? Maria did. Lola's voice, gravelly with age, weaving tales of shapeshifters that lurked in the shadows, feasting on the unwary. She'd laughed them off as a kid, but now, with the funeral's pall hanging over everything, the stories clung like damp cloth. Dinner was a somber affair. Adobo chicken and rice served on banana leaves, eaten in near silence, broken only by the clink of utensils and occasional sobs from an aunt. The family gathered around the long, narrow table in the dining room, the casket visible through the open door. Thomas tried to lighten the mood with tales of Manila traffic, but his jokes fell flat, swallowed by the gloom. Afterward, the relatives dispersed to their tasks, some to pray, others to prepare for the novena. Maria wandered out to the veranda, the night air cooler now, laced with the scent of night-blooming sampaguita. The barrio was quiet, save for the chirp of crickets and the occasional bark of a dog. Stars pricked the velvet sky, brighter here than in the city, but the forest beyond the house seemed to swallow the light. It pressed close, a wall of tangled balete trees and underbrush, their branches twisting like arthritic fingers. A figure emerged from the tree line, a local man, perhaps in his 50s, carrying a basket of firewood. He paused when he saw her, his face weathered and lined, eyes sharp under the brim of a worn cap. "Good evening," Maria said in halting Tagalog, remembering her manners. He nodded, setting the basket down. "You are Lola Carmen's Apo, from the city?" "Yes, Maria Reyes." She stepped closer. "We're here for the funeral." His expression darkened, lines deepening around his mouth. "A sad time, but be careful, Dalagita. The forest, it watches." Maria frowned. "Watches? What do you mean?" He glanced over his shoulder as if the trees had ears. "After dark, stay inside. Lock the doors. The Aswang, They come out when the moon is full, like tonight. She laughed nervously, a sound too brittle in the quiet. Aswang? That's just stories. His gaze bored into her, unyielding. Stories keep the foolish alive. Your Lola knew. She warned us all. Last harvest, 2 children went missing from the next barrio. Found them. Not whole. He made a slicing motion across his throat, then picked up his basket. Bolt the windows, and don't go near the woods alone. He melted back into the shadows before she could respond, leaving her heart thudding. The word Aswang echoed in her mind. Vampiric creatures from folklore. Man-eaters that disguised themselves as harmless folk. Child's tales, she told herself. But the chill that prickled her skin said otherwise. Inside, the house felt smaller, the walls closing in. Marco and Elena had claimed the upstairs bedrooms, bickering over who got the one with the fan. Maria's room was downstairs, adjacent to the parlor, its capacious windows rattling faintly in the breeze. She changed into a loose nightgown, the fabric sticking to her sweat-damp skin, and lit a candle on the bedside table. The flame danced, throwing erratic shadows that seemed to twist on the walls. Sleep wouldn't come. The rosary prayers droned from the parlor, a monotonous chant that blurred into the night sounds outside. Then the scratching returned, louder this time, from the attic directly above. Scritch, 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 like claws dragging across the beams. Maria sat up, pulse racing. It wasn't the house settling. It was deliberate, probing. She grabbed a flashlight from her bag and crept into the hallway, the floor cool under her bare feet. The stairs to the attic were at the end of the corridor, a narrow ladder of dark wood tucked behind a curtain. Her hand trembled on the railing as she climbed, each step groaning in protest. The air grew mustier, thick with dust, and the faint, acrid tang of something animal. Pushing open the trapdoor, she shone the light into the gloom. The attic was a cavern of forgotten things. Trunks bound with rope, yellowed photographs scattered like leaves, and cobwebs draping from the rafters like funeral veils. The scratching had stopped, but her beam caught movement, a flicker in the corner, gone before she could focus. Hello? Her voice was a whisper, swallowed by the darkness. Nothing. Just the distant hoot of an owl outside. She swept the light around once more, heart hammering, then retreated down the ladder, pulling the trapdoor shut behind her. In her room, she wedged a chair under the door handle, though it felt futile against whatever lurked above. Lying in bed, she stared at the ceiling, willing sleep to come. The candle sputtered nearly out when a new sound pierced the night, a rustle from the window. She bolted upright, crossing to the capiz shells. Moonlight filtered through, silvering the panes. Beyond, the backyard stretched into the forest's edge. There, in the underbrush, a shape detached itself from the trees. Tall and humanoid, cloaked in shadow, it stood motionless, head tilted as if listening. Maria's breath fogged the glass. It couldn't be the firewood man. This figure was wrong. Too elongated, limbs unnaturally bent. Eyes gleamed in the darkness, twin points of reflected moonlight, fixed on the house. On her. She stumbled back, knocking over the candle. Wax spilled across the floor as darkness rushed in. The figure didn't move, but she felt its gaze, heavy and hungry, pressing through the walls. Outside, the crickets fell silent, leaving only the whisper of leaves and the thud of her heart. In the parlor, the prayers continued, oblivious. But Maria knew, deep in her bones, that the homecoming had awakened something, and it was watching, waiting for the harvest to begin.